So, have you ever walked into a Mexican store and looked up around the ceiling? More likely than not, there are a bunch of different characters and figures made out of colorful paper. One word, piñatas. When I think of this word, it reminds me of my birthday when I was younger. I remember having a piñata at my birthday party suspended from the top of my house. I would get so excited to hit it and get some treats. My earliest memory of this tradition was on my 5th birthday party, and the piñata has been a long tradition in my family. I want to explore this topic more in depth. The birthday ritual of the piñata is known more for being of Mexican descent, found at celebrations and parties where kids play the traditional game. Yet, the piñata can be traced back to China and Mesoamerica and is still found around the world as similar traditions. Today, I will be discussing first, what is a piñata? Second, the history of the piñata, and finally, similar traditions that are found over the world. First, we'll talk about what exactly is a piñata and how it relates to birthday tradition. According to the Children and Youth in History, a piñata is a decorated container made of clay or paper mache. Inside this container, there are usually sweet treats such as candy, fruit, or small toys. They are highly decorated with colorful tissue paper and ribbons. In an article written by Suzanne Barbazat, who is a freelance writer specializing in Mexican travel and traditions, the traditional shape of the piñata is a star with 7 points. The 7 points represent the 7 deadly sins, which are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. The blindfold represents faith and candy, and the candies and goodies inside the piñata represent the rewards and riches from the kingdom of heaven. There is a traditional game that is associated with the piñata, where at parties, the birthday kid puts on the blindfold that spins for a certain amount of times, then tries to hit the piñata, which is suspended from a rope, while someone else is pulling the other end of the rope to make it harder to hit. This whole exercise is to show that with faith, you can overcome anything and receive the rewards from heaven. Now that we know what exactly a piñata is, let's discuss the history of this candy-filled tradition. As stated in East End website, which is a foundation whose mission is to bring culture and tradition and connect it to the community, says, Italian explorer Marco Polo recounted seeing in his travels to China a ritual in which a figure of an ox filled with seeds was broken up with sticks to celebrate the Chinese New Year. The piñata tradition is attributed to China, where paper was originated. After they would break the container filled with seeds, they would burn it and keep the ashes for good luck. This tradition made it to Italy in the 14th century, where it got the name pignata, which translates to fragile pot. The Italians would use clay pots to make the piñatas. Eventually, Italy brought it to Spain, where they brought this tradition to Mexico in the 16th century. But the Aztecs had a similar ritual already. They would have a clay pot decorated in feathers filled with treasures, and it would be broken in honor of the gods. Now that we have talked about where the piñata comes from, let me tell you about similar traditions that are found over the world. The piñata is a tradition that can be found at birthday parties and also during Christmas in many Latin American countries, such as Chile, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Cuba, and also the United States. The traditional 7-pointed star is still favored for celebrations, but nowadays, there are many more variety of piñatas to choose from superheroes to animals and everything in between. The US and Latin countries aren't the only ones to enjoy this tradition. There are similar traditions found over the world. In Denmark, there's a festival called Fastelavn, where kids dress up and sing songs, almost like Halloween. According to Charles Farrar, a writer for the local Denmark News, states, the one tradition that has thrived through the years is knocking the cat out of the barrel, a game played in schools, daycare institutions, and around homes. Like a piñata, a barrel is hung, and youngsters try to smash it with a bat. When they do, a pile of sweets falls out. In the old days, a live cat was used, preferably black, as a symbol of evil. In India, as stated in HinduismFacts.org, Dahi Handi, which means a clay vessel filled with curd. It is a Hindu festival in which young boys and men form a human pyramid in order to break the vessel. These are two examples that show that there are forms of the piñata that are still enjoyed around the world, not only in Mexico. Everyone has their own special birthday tradition that they do every year. For me, up until recently, it was having a piñata and hitting it as hard as I can, without hurting anyone else, of course. Today, I discussed what a piñata is, the history of the piñata, and also similar traditions around the world. Next time anyone is having a party or celebration, pick up a piñata and fill it with anything you want, and maybe then you will see why the piñata became so well known. Thank you.